Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. There are a lot of characters in Paladins who need help. Either their balance is bad, or they have a lot of bugs, but some characters have both. Kasumi, for example, is in the toilet, but the champion I want to talk about today is actually a rather lovely damage champion, unlike Kasumi, and that is Imani. Imani has a lot of problems that make her basically unplayable in 2023, and I want to discuss those problems, both in terms of her balance and also showcasing a lot of the bugs that she has that really need to be fixed, because yeah, she is plagued by bugs. She's a really, really cool character, and I like her a lot, but she's just not good right now, and I want her to be helped by the devs, because she needs some work. So, let's jump right in and talk about what makes Imani bad in 2023. So Imani is not a great damage champion right now for a multitude of reasons. She gets outclassed by a lot of champions, and also she is so plagued by bugs that sometimes she just feels like a mess to play. She can be clunky, but also straight up abilities just won't work, and her ultimate is basically just a throwaway ult at this point. It might as well not even be an ability because it is actually that bad, and we will talk about that later. But first, I want to talk about just some key balance points about Imani that I think could be a lot better. And let's start off with her talents, because her talents, well, they're not the greatest. Pyromania is the big issue that I have. Pyromania is just awful. And the reason for that is because it nerfs her DPS to give her AoE. But that AoE is not worth it because other blasters just straight up do her job better. So let's take a look at Pyromania here. Go ahead and equip this and see what Pyromania is like. We can go ahead and just shoot a fireball here. 800 damage. Charge up another fireball. 800 damage. Wow. Yeah, you get the point. It's 800 damage fireballs. And, well, I mean, you can 3-tap people until they get Haven, and then you have to 4-tap them. And the key problem is that while this AoE is actually pretty good, it's actually one of the larger blast radiuses, or radii, out of all the blasters. The problem is that the damage just isn't good, right? We have many blasters in this game that can outdamage her in terms of their actual impact. Drogos, Bomb King, and Dredge all do 850 instead of 800. But they also have much, much faster fire rates. Imani fires every 1.2 seconds. And then, of course, she can get the double blast, which she does get very good mana generation with this talent. That is the one actual good benefit. But that's a very slow fire rate. Drogos and Bomb King and Dredge, I believe they all have a 0.7 second fire rate. I'll have that up on the screen. They just do damage faster, and their weapon shots hit harder. They don't have the same AoE, but they're still blasters, and they also have other abilities that really combo well to give them even better AoE presence than Imani can get. So there's absolutely no reason to pick this talent. If you want to go Pyromania, just pick an actual blaster. This talent is pointless. And it's also pointless because Splitting Ice also gives her AoE, but without a downside. Splitting Ice lets her Frostbolt chain to another enemy, dealing slightly less damage. So it's basically the same concept as, AoE Falloff, where, the center of the impact does a lot of damage, but then, the person who's to the right of that impact takes a little bit less damage. It's just that, but without the downside of nerfing your damage. Splitting Ice still does the exact same damage on the normal Frostbolt. So this is just dumb. It's a dumb talent. I want the Fireball to stay at 1,000. That would make it a little bit more competitively viable. And then Mana Rift is, well, it's a decent talent for what it does. It lets you stand still for 1 second to create a Mana Rift, and that Mana Rift will generate mana for you, leading to more double Fireballs and double Ice shots. And the mana generation is fine, although I don't necessarily like that it creates a sedentary playstyle, but at least it's something unique. But yeah, the talents are generally, they're decently mediocre. Next, let's talk about some other balance points. So Imani has kind of a weird movement ability, because this movement ability is very good for traversal. You can go a long distance with this, especially if you're running other cards. Look at how far we go. We can go to this wall and kind of go over to the right, and yeah, it's good traversal. But it's really bad at dodging. It's not like a fast dash, it's not a teleport, and it's certainly not like Eevee's Soar, where you can just blitz around like crazy and become untargetable. This is slow, telegraphed, and the vertical mobility is just really not there. I'm especially disappointed by the verticality of this. Sometimes you want to go up to a high ground, and you'll spend several seconds just kind of sliding up the wall, because you can't go very high with this. I mean, just look at this. We'll go from the bottom floor up to the top floor. That was like, what, 2 seconds to scale that wall? I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. So I think adding a little bit more flexibility in terms of the turning radius and also the verticality of this would do wonders for making this a lot more of a serious traversal option for Imani. Because, yeah, I mean, it is cool to, like, fly up into the sky and get the jump on people, but it's really bad at, like, dodging attacks, getting away from enemies. It's slow, and it's just so easy to hit Imani while she uses this ability. Also, of course, we can talk about the Inferno Cannon. Let me double-check my build and make sure that I'm not using Swift Seer. I'm using Swift Seer 1. Let me see. Yeah, default build here. This is how slow the base Inferno Cannon is. I mean, she's practically rooted. It's so bad. You're basically forced to use Swift Seer if you want to actually travel at a decent rate and not just be a sitting duck. This is Swift Seer 2. This is what I run it at to make it slightly more bearable, but it's still so slow. So that's just, it's a problem. Because Inferno Cannon, well, that's not the only bad thing about it. I guess this might be a slightly hot take, but I think Inferno Cannon is bad. Genuinely bad. And I have many reasons for that. First of all, yeah, obviously the traversal speed is too slow. It makes her a sitting duck, even though it lets her get a vantage point on people by going up into the sky. All it takes is for an enemy to look up, and then you're dead. You're just going to take a billion damage because you're so easy to hit. And the Inferno Cannon does not have enough damage power. It does 100 damage every 0.09 seconds. So I'll have the math on screen for how much DPS that is. It's okay DPS. It's her highest damage per second skill. But it has issues regarding the actual impact of that damage, right? So, like, we can shoot Ying here. It kills her decently quickly, but the problem is, it doesn't apply Cauterize. So that Ying can out-heal all of the damage of the Inferno Cannon, pretty easily, actually. And this is the case for a lot of interactions with Inferno Cannon. You can prime them with a Fireball first, but eventually that Cauterize is going to wear off, because the Inferno Cannon lasts for a pretty long time. And there are many situations where you can't even prime somebody at all. Let's say you're flying up into the sky, up and over a building, and you want to laser them with an Inferno Cannon. Get the drop on them. Well, if you do this, you're not applying Cauterize. They can be quick with their reactions, out-heal that, look up at you, and kill you. So it not applying Cauterize is a really big deal. That problem is mitigated by having good coordination with your team, and having them apply the Cauterize for you, but generally it's an unreliable ability. It's not consistent. That's the problem. And also, why would you use Inferno Cannon when you could pick many of the other damage champions in the game? Inferno Cannon, you can basically think of it like a magical version of an assault rifle, and we have many assault rifle characters in this game. So this is the damage it does. Now, let's just go to, oh, I don't know, Tyra. Tyra, actually, funnily enough, has the exact same fire rate as the Inferno Cannon. It is 0.09 seconds, but the weapon damage is higher at 115. And it also applies Cauterize. And it can headshot. The damage is much higher and it's much more permanent because it applies Cauterize. So it's in general a better tool. It's also more consistent in the sense that this is her primary fire, whereas Inferno Cannon is an ability with a long cooldown, so it's more consistent that way as well. Inferno Cannon, pound for pound, is objectively worse than basically every rifle character in the game. Vic, Tyra, Vivian, you name it. It's worse than all of them. And while it does have its unique benefits of being able to fly and also pierce through targets, the damage just is not permanent. It doesn't have any permanence to it, and that's what makes it bad. And yeah, I think the piercing would be a fair trade-off for not hitting headshots. I think that's reasonable, because that's a lot of damage if you can line them up. But the single target damage should be buffed, I think. 100 damage is not good enough. It should be buffed to 110. It used to be, I think, 120. I think 110 would be at least a decent start. Especially when you consider the fact that, yeah, it doesn't apply Cauterize. Applying Cauterize would be my grand goal, grand vision for it. I know it's not technically a weapon attack, but it basically is. It's a damage skill. It's a pure damage skill. Like, Please. Just this once. Give us Cauterize on an ability. That would be so nice. But yeah, it's also buggy. We're not done yet. It's buggy. It has that issue too, where sometimes you will cast Inferno Cannon, and you'll see this animation, but you won't do damage. You'll fly, you'll get the flight, you'll see the flames spewing out from your hands. No damage whatsoever. No regs. It's bugged. It happens more consistently on ping. I don't know if I'll have footage for it for this video, because I haven't gotten it too frequently. I have gotten it occasionally, but sometimes I wasn't recording. I know other people get this a lot more frequently, and I think it is more consistent to get the bug if you have higher ping. So, in general, that's a really bad mark against the Inferno Cannon. There are very few damage abilities in the game that are that buggy, or have, you know, that serious of a bug, where it just flat out won't work. So, yeah, so many issues with just the Inferno Cannon alone. Yeah, and that's her highest DPS skill. The Frostbolts have been buffed recently, and I think they got a fair enough damage buff. I think it's decently consistent damage. Again, you could argue this gets outclassed by a lot of the rifle characters we mentioned earlier if you want consistent damage, but I at least appreciate that they did buff this. Something you might be able to do is maybe buff the fire rate a smidge to give it a more distinct identity from the Firebolts, but that's just my personal preference. I don't take too much of an issue with either of her primary fires by default. Like I said, I have issue with Pyromania, but by default, these firebombs are actually okay. They actually have a faster fire rate than Xiaolin's. She fires a fireball every 1.2 seconds, and Xiaolin fires an arrow every 1.4 seconds with a 0.5 second knock period where he's knocking the next arrow. So, yeah, she does fire faster than him. He has other utility that gives him better bursts, etc., but I think that's fair. Faster firing fireballs without the rapid shot or the cripple arrow. Yeah, that's reasonable. So I don't take too much issue with her primary fires. And then this Frost Bomb is actually her best ability, I would say, at this point. Large, 800 damage, AoE root. Yeah, it's genuinely good. It's genuinely a good ability. This is why you would play Imani if you were trying to decide whether you wanted to play her in, you know, whatever setting you're in. Because this root is genuinely really good. Especially because you can just, you know, kind of pop it at an instant, like right on top of you, just for the quick root if you don't want the damage, and that AoE can be very powerful against flankers. So, this is genuinely a good ability. I have no complaints about this. I wouldn't touch it. This is perfect. But yeah, let's finally talk about the elephant in the room. Or rather, the dragon in the room. Her ultimate... Oh. It's been ruined. This is genuinely, I think, the single buggiest ability in all of Paladins. There is no reason to use Imani ult in 2023. Genuinely none. You're better off not using this ability. You're more likely to die using it than you are to kill an enemy. Let me show you exactly why. First of all, this dragon, while it does have good DPS, it has a fall-off bug for some reason. So if we go up here... 129 damage. Look at that. I was doing like 54, 51. Look at that. I'm slow roasting these guys. Let's go over to this side and slow roast Fernando. Look at that damage. I have no idea why this has fall off. It just randomly appeared one patch. No description in the balance section of any update. It just happened. It has fall off. So, this big, bulky dragon that takes a lot of fire just getting to the enemies, now, when you want to try and finally get into the effective range, has fall-off. This is the damage it's supposed to do, but this is the damage it actually does when you're trying to scorch somebody. You want to, you know, get the damage on them as quickly as possible. So yeah, that's the first issue that makes you unlikely to kill enemies. Also, you can see, for some reason, its neck is just crooked now. It's just crooked. Like, I don't know, it has arthritis or something. Like, it's... I don't know why this happens. Another bug you can see is that you can't see Imani's health bar. You can see the dragon's health bar in the center of my screen and on the bottom left. You cannot see Imani's health bar, so you have no idea if your body is getting shot unless you're looking at the enemies shooting it. And just to demonstrate that it is actually Imani taking damage and not... or the dragon taking damage on the health bar, not Imani, we'll summon the Cassie-bots. I'll wait for them to fire a volley, and then I'll summon the dragon. Okay, here we go. Summon. Yeah, none of my health bars are showing that I was taking that damage there, and I just died. No health bar on my screen indicated that. I know we're in the shooting range and not a real match, so we don't have the health bar on the top left, but that also just shows the dragon's health bar. So yeah, that's a very large issue as well. And then, to top it all off, I'm going to play a clip for you here, which shows the dragon will dox your location. It will dox where Imani's human body is, and the enemies will be able to exploit it. Watch. Okay, let me... There we go. I see the dragon, and there's your body. Wow, look at that. Oh no, you're killing me, but you'll fall off. And I have wall hacks. Isn't Imani ult great? So yeah. You know what I said about you're more likely to die using this ability than you are to actually kill an enemy? Now you know why. This ability is the buggiest ability in Paladins. I challenge you to find a buggier ability. This ultimate is probably the worst ultimate in Paladins, not because it's balanced poorly. I think balance-wise, it has potential to be either a somewhat bad ult, just a distraction, or a literal game changer that wipes the enemy team. But due to the bugs, the sheer amount of bugs plaguing this ultimate, I think that makes it the worst ultimate in Paladins right now. Because it genuinely just, it can't be used. If you're playing Imani, you might as well not even use the dragon. You would be more effective just spamming fireballs in the back. Genuinely. And that's really sad. Because the dragon is one of the coolest ultimates in Paladins on paper. But in practice, it's garbage. One last thing we can talk about are her cards. Because, well, she did get a very good, but also very bad change recently. So Affinity used to be a card that was a key part of the reset playstyle. Basically, instead of this max health card I have here, you would run Affinity 5, and then Draconic Will and Discipline at level 4. And Affinity basically reduced the cooldown of your Elemental Shift to 1 second, which it is now by default. And then these cards would reduce the cooldown of your abilities, and you would basically just, every time you Elemental Shifted on that 1 second cooldown, you would reduce the cooldown of your other abilities. Affinity got put into base kit, which is an amazing change. Truly amazing change. But they added 3-second internal cooldowns to these abilities. So the playstyle that made Imani decent before, basically the only decent playstyle for Imani, has kind of been nerfed. Because if we take a look at the spam, right? Let's just say I Frostfire Glide up here, and then I throw out a Frost Bomb, and then we Elemental Shift, do an Inferno Cannon, bam, and then shift again. Okay, I have my Frostfire Glide back. Give me a second for the Frost Bomb. Okay, here we go. Swap back. Okay, I mean, the reset is decent. But the thing you could do before, where you can Frostfire Glide and then do a bunch of Elemental Shifts to reset, that doesn't happen anymore. Look at that. I only just now procced the cooldown reset, and it's just generally much slower than what you could do before. So those internal cooldowns nerfed basically the only good playstyle that she had when she already wasn't a great damage champion to begin with. That's something that I think shouldn't have happened. I think when they did that change, they should have let her have no internal cooldowns for a while, and just see what happens. Because she wasn't dominating the meta before, not even close. And I don't think she would have dominated the meta after, if this affinity change happened and these didn't get internal cooldowns. I think it would have made her much better, yes, absolutely, because you could run max health with these cards now, or whatever card you wanted, really. But, yeah. Nope, that's not what we got. They gave Imani internal cooldowns before they gave 7 internal cooldowns. Just let that sink in for a sec. In terms of the rest of her cards, I mean, a lot of these are just kind of useless. Healing falls off in late games, so Elemental Barrier is not that great. Ice in her veins, you could maybe argue running it for a little bit of sustain. I don't think it's that great, though. We have mana generation while using these abilities. I don't know how particularly great those are, especially if you're running Mana Rift. I mean, why not just run Mana Rift instead? I don't really know. I didn't mean to click that. There we go. Frostfire Glide traveling farther and faster is, those are generally okay cards. Similar to Eevee, actually. And then, yeah, projectile speed of Frostbomb, who cares about that? Swift Seer is good, but her base Inferno Cannon speed should just be faster. And then Cooling Runes and Heatsink, I feel like they scale decently, but I feel like it's generally better to still run these cards even though they do have internal cooldowns. I could be wrong about that, of course. I'm not an Imani main, partially because she's in a really bad state right now, so I feel like she doesn't have too many great cards for variety in her builds, apart from literally just going a build like this. So her cards could use some work as well. I guess it's one kind of final thing to touch on before we end off. I want Imani to be good, but these bugs and these balance issues just hold her back. She's unplayable, and even if she were playable, there are a lot of reasons I could see to just pick another character over her, whether it's her low DPS or her less than savory mobility. There are damage champions with better mobility. If you want better flight, pick Drogas. If you want better dodging and traversal, Royal Subjects BK exists. Both of whom are blasters who have better AoE damage than Pyromania. The only reason I can see to pick Imani in 2023 is for this ability, which is genuinely great. Other than that, she needs love, and I am begging, I am pleading, as a matter of fact, for fixes for Imani, right? I want her to be great. I don't know if I can say great again, because I don't know if she was ever great, but I want her to be great. I want Imani to be a great damage champion. I think she's a really cool character. I want to play her. I want to play her a lot, actually, but not in this state. And so, this is my official cry to Hi-Rez. Please. This character needs your love and attention and your help. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Imani in the comments section. I would especially love to hear from any Imani mains. All two of them. I would love to hear from the Imani mains what you would do to change this champion. Do you think I'm off base about me saying Inferno Cannon is bad? Do you for some reason disagree that Frostbomb is her best ability? I think it's her best ability. What do you think? And yeah, what do you think about her talents? All of it. Let me know in the comments section down below. But yeah, I've wanted to make this video for a while. Glad to get it off my chest. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.